Welcome to episode 108 of Auto Off Topic. What's up, Brad?
Not much, Andrew. What's going on with you?
The usual. We're here recording.
This is true. And if anybody couldn't see us, they also know that because they can hear us.
That's right. I guess we'll get right into it. We don't really have much to.
We have nothing but project car updates because we have been a couple of busy shade tree mechanics
We've been
this past
hustling.
week.
So there's that. We've been making up for all those many months where we had no project
No
car
work
updates.
whatsoever.
We're
Well,
just
we have a
cramming
goal.
it in there.
We have a goal, though. That's why.
Yeah, I guess it's good to
So,
have a goal.
yeah, we're trying to get 3 cars ready for Radwood, plus the Gallant.
Oh
Side
yeah.
repairs.
What's the three cars?
The Montero,
Oh, we talked about
the
that last week, though.
Talon, and the Sapporo.
Yeah, but the Montero was all set last week.
I'm just saying it goes into the reason where it's so busy.
The Montero also needed repairs anyways because 2 weeks after Radwood, it is going off road. We're going to Vermont.
Yep.
For the Northeast. Nope. Flatland.
Northeast Flatlanders.
It is Northeast Flatlanders.
Hmm.
My mind blanked on that.
That's okay.
They're doing their Toys for Tots run out of the southern Vermont.
Yep.
So you can look for them on Facebook if you're local.
I
I
think
don't
the
know
event's
if
already
it
sold
if it
out.
is it already full.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, if it's already full, but you'd still like to donate, we would be happy to bring toys with us.
Oh,
we're,
for sure.
We're bringing our own donation of
Yep.
toys, but if you have toys you'd like to donate, we would be happy to bring them up there because it does go to a good cause.
And if you do sign up for the event now, I'm pretty sure there is a
A waiting list?
like a waiting list of people cancel for whatever reason. So
Okay.
I mean, you still can try.
Yeah. And I've run it in the past with just Jordan. I rode shotgun with him,
Hmm.
and it was local. They did it through Connecticut, and a couple of those guys are Connecticut State Troopers.
Yep.
And they worked with the local uh, troop where they were running the event, and they showed up with a police cruiser, and we stuffed it full of toys,
Yeah.
and so that was pretty cool. So,
Yeah. This time they're taking it out of their home state to Vermont because there's more wheeling in Vermont.
yep. And it's a little bit earlier in the season. Last year was November. It'll
Right.
still be pretty chilly in Vermont, but the roads in Vermont are awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. The paved roads and the dirt roads
Yeah.
are pretty amazing.
Yeah. So again, that's going on. I want to get that out there instead of waiting till our events
And of course,
section.
we have Radwood coming up as well, which is what we're preparing everything for.
Yep.
Which is the 14th of October in Philadelphia.
Yep.
And then for those of us with trucks, off-road capable trucks, the Mitsubishi Montero's USA Northeast group is doing their own little run after the show.
That's right.
We will not be there, unfortunately, because we are bringing a truck, but we have too much other stuff to do. But there's a good group going. It's not a big time commitment. It's going to be a quick run after the event, and then everybody goes home. It's not a camping trip or anything. So
Every truck's welcome.
every truck is welcome, not just the Monteros, correct?
Yeah. So if you're bringing an FJ or something, some other rad era pickup truck or a 4x4, it's Northeast Mitsubishi. Are you looking it up?
I'm looking up the name of it because I know that Eric yelled at me last week for not having the name 100% right.
Oh, all right.
So I need to get the name of the group right. So hold on one second.
Is this the pedantic corrections department getting the?
The Northeast Mitsubishi 4x4 Crew After Party.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's a subgroup of Mitsubishi Monteros USA.
Cool.
So you can look both those groups up on Facebook.
Sweet. I think that's it for top of the show stuff. Let's get right to Project Car updates. The meat and potatoes we got here. So forgotten, stress-inducing Project Car update.
Yeah, this one happened right before the last show, but we kind of glossed over it because we were still kind of butthurt about it.
Yeah, Jordan's Xterra also needed upstream O2 sensors.
This was the one that last week we described doing the
four-wheel brake job.
Four-wheel brake job on.
Upstream driver side, total nightmare. It was
This particular time, it wasn't like hard to access or anything. It was just
It was pretty hard to access. You couldn't quite get a socket on it straight. It's just my least favorite repairs are sway bar links and O2 sensors. They're
Mhm.
always difficult.
correct because sway bar links they always spin in the link itself, where you're trying to loosen the nut off the end, or they're rusty and broken.
Yeah.
And O2 sensors are always frozen in the pipe because A, New England, and B, heat cycling.
Yeah. But They even with the warming up the truck, uh, it was really hard to get a socket in there. So the only socket that would fit, it was one of those cheap slotted sockets
Mm-hmm.
that as soon as you turn on it, it spreads
Spreads and breaks. Yeah.
and just slips and was starting to round it off. So I was like, well, we're going to plan B, which is the nuclear option
Fire.
because nope,
No.
you cut the wires.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to now remove the O2 sensor
Right.
and you jam a regular socket onto it and then break it free, which
Which
worked.
did work. Yes.
It buggered up the threads a bit, and cleaning up the threads didn't work so well. And I eventually got them sort of cleaned up.
And also, we couldn't get the old O2 sensor then out of the socket that we used to remove it with.
Oh yeah.
It was also a nightmare.
So a lot of feeling around and getting it threaded in there, and then finally I caught some threads and got it tight, and it crushed the gasket, and that was it.
Kind of. Because you had to use the second brand new O2 sensor.
Oh right.
Because the first one, when you were trying to repair the threads on the O2 sensor got buggered up.
Yeah.
So the brand new O2 sensor wouldn't thread in. The buggered threads on the brand new O2 sensor wouldn't match the destroyed threads in the pipe.
Which I have a die that is big enough for that, so I'm going to save that O2 sensor.
Yeah, I'm sure we can. It was just at the time,
It
was
was
super frustrating.
super annoying.
Yeah.
I hate those freaking O2 sensors. Anyways.
And they go constantly in Nissans.
Yeah. Well, it's also really annoying that his truck has less than 80,000 miles, and that's not an emissions warranty item. I feel like it 100% should be emissions warranty
Mm-hmm. It's part of the
because
emission system.
it is part of the emission system.
If you go for a sticker with that light on, you fail for emissions.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
so
for
add
some
emissions.
reason, it's not covered.
It's part. They consider it electrical.
I don't know. And that's the thing. Like, if your O2 sensors failed and ruin your catalytic converters, are your catalytic converters, those would be covered.
I would think so.
Yeah, whatever. That's
So you should have just kept driving it and waited for the cats to get destroyed. And
I
get it
guess
done for free.
Yeah. I mean, so stupid. But whatever. It's done now.
It is done.
We
It
know
was
what to
super
do
annoying
for
at
it
the
next time.
but now it's fixed.
Yeah, it's basically all the heat shields and shit around the exhaust just made it really difficult to get a decent socket in there. So next time I know what to do. Not a big deal.
Burn the truck.
No, it wasn't. They wasn't even that rusty. That's the worst part.
No, it's not. It's a fairly new vehicle.
Yeah.
It's only what, 4 years old, 3 years old.
Mm-hmm. All right. I got the wrong caliper for the driver's side of the Galant, so that is not done yet.
Correct. Did we describe working on that at all yet?
No, I probably got a front-wheel drive one, so the hydraulic line goes in at the wrong angle. It fits and bolts up,
Correct.
but it also doesn't have the right flare fitting for the line. So I was like, well, I can kind of get this together for now, and then I can get the correct one afterwards. But I just got so annoyed with it, I just put it together and then left it, and I'll deal with the other side.
The other problem with the hydraulic line going at the wrong angle was the clearance on the wheel wasn't there.
It was just touching the wheel.
Yeah.
Like if you drove it any length of time, it would wear through the line.
Yep.
It was dumb. If I had 16-inch wheels, it would probably clear, but whatever. I got the right parts. I'll swap it out the day this podcast drops. That's on the docket for that. I also I worked on Jordan's Rallycross STI. The oil pan was weeping, like so rusted that oil is just seeping through it
Correct.
and like dripping out like a lot.
However,
which
it
is-
probably wouldn't get any worse because now both sides are covered in oil.
Okay, fair enough. That's a fair. Okay, that's a legitimate theory. Pretty typical, rusty Subaru club.
Yeah, you guys are both part of that.
Yep.
So
I had to jack up. If you unbolt the engine mounts and jack the engine up at the transmission, it gives you just enough clearance to get the pan out. And then if you remove the oil cooler, the oil filter spins on, it goes to an oil cooler. If you drop that down, it literally gives you just the right amount of clearance to knock the pan out of there, drop it down straight, and then put the new pan up. But the RTV was so old and dried up, which it wasn't leaking from the RTV where it meets the block, but as soon as I hit it with a dead blow, it basically fell off. Like
Oh, it's like
it
solid.
took nothing. Yeah, it just boonk, and all the RTV came with the metal part of the pan. There was very little on the block I had to clean up,
Oops.
so that made that part easy. But I got that done pretty quick, and then he went
Yeah, I missed that whole project, unfortunately.
he went rallycrossing, and there were no leaks, so job done.
Success.
And I traded that for we hopefully will have a landing page soon.
Yes, yeah, you did that, and he'll build us a website.
That's
Fair
right.
trade off.
Yep. So sometimes that's how it works. You're good at one thing, you've got a friend that's good at the other thing, and you trade off.
We here at Auto Off Topic are big proponents of the barter system.
100%.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the Sapporo, the long dormant 83 Sapporo.
Not the longest dormant of all my stuff, but getting there for sure, because it's been 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's been almost 4 years to the date since the last time the transmission was out, which is wonderful.
Do you want to take it from the top, from the original one?
So, rewind the clock to the Wayback Machine, to August or September of 2014. I drive the Sapporo, which is, for those who don't know, a rebadged Mitsubishi Galant. It was sold in this country as a Plymouth Sapporo and a Dodge Challenger. And is the same basic under structure, unibody structure, mechanics of a Starion, minus a turbo and minus an independent rear suspension. So it has a solid rear axle and a carbureted 2.6 liter rear wheel drive. Back in 2014, I was driving the car and I went to back it into my driveway and I put it in reverse, the automatic transmission, and I heard a clunk. And as I'm backing it up, the clunk turned into a metallic clanging sound. And
Wait, I know what it is.
what's that?
It's an automatic.
Yeah, it's garbage from the get go. So at that point, the metallic clanging sound happens. I go to put it in reverse, back in the driveway, put it in drive. The clanging sound gets worse, and the car ceases to move. So that's not good. So we towed the car to Salem, to the garage of the lift, and we pulled the transmission out of the car. Somehow, the torque converter input shaft, I guess you would call it, the part that goes into the transmission, it's got a little keyway on it that it sits in, had snapped in half at like a weird angle, and the piece that was clanging around was part of the torque converter, and the torque converter wasn't being driven because where the keyway is was broken. So we all stood around scratching our heads wondering how this happened, because the car, A, doesn't make any power. It's like 100 horsepower on a good day and 100 foot-pounds of torque. It's not a fast car. It's not a powerful car. The transmission in the car is a kind of tried and true unit. They started making them in the 50s, and they made them through until the 90s.
So, yeah, I figured we could talk about that a little bit. So it's a TorqueFlite A904,
Yes.
but it's a baby A904.
So it's an A904B, I think, is the designation for it. It's the same basic internals of every 904 TorqueFlite transmission that Chrysler ever made, and AMC used as well.
Yep.
Just in a smaller case to fit the smaller cars.
So from Hemmings.com, a post by Jim O'Clair in January of 2014. So it says, although the cast iron TorqueFlite 3-speed had been available as early as 1956 in the 300C, the smaller, more economical version, the light-duty TorqueFlite 6 or A904, was released in 1960.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's an old transmission.
The A904 could very well be considered the grandfather of most Chrysler automatic transmissions.
Yeah, it's very basic, very robust, and it's been put behind V8 cars for years.
Well, it's a different transmission, technically.
Technically, but the design and internals are very similar to the full-size 904.
Yeah. So derivatives of the 904 include the AMC Torque Command 6, the A909 and 904 with a lockup converter, the A500 904 with a fourth gear added, and the baby 904, it says Mitsubishi-based compacts, the Aero and Colt, and the A998 904 with extra plate usually found in 318 equipped vehicles.
Right, so small blocks.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, It's a basic Chrysler transmission.
Yep.
It's a design that's well known for being good as far as automatics go. They don't fail very often.
3 speed.
So why did this one fail this way?
I don't know.
So we don't know. So we just can't figure out any reason. We decide it must be just some kind of metal fatigue. Maybe the part was not treated properly when it was built. Maybe it was a factory flaw. We can't figure it out. I look for a used transmission. Cannot find one. I finally find one. It looks dirtier and grosser than the one we took out of the car. Because again, the car is a, at the time, 55,000 mile car from California. So the transmission was really clean inside and out. So we decide, somewhat fatefully now, it would seem, that the best bet is to take the torque converter from the used transmission, put it in our known good shifting transmission, and put that back in the car. And
Mm-hmm.
then everything should be hunky dory, no problem at all, life is good.
Mm-hmm.
So it lasts that way for about 2 years. Not daily driven duty, probably 5 or 6 thousand miles total.
Mm-hmm.
And
And that car is no straight line stunner.
no, like I said before, it doesn't make any power. It's weird that it would break this part.
Yeah.
Um, so 2 years, maybe 5 or 6 thousand miles. I'm driving the car, of course, nowhere near home. I'm way up in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I glance in my mirror, and there is a smoke cloud behind me of like 007, like, smoke, um, what do you call it, smoke screen purposes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can't see anything behind me. So obviously, I pull over, and crawl into the car, and there is transmission fluid pouring out of the front of the case. So out of the bottom of the bell housing, in between the bell housing and the inspection cover. So I go, well, that's not good. I get in the car and I drive it as far as I can until it runs out of fluid. I happen to have fluid in the trunk. Um, so I poured more fluid in it and I got it the rest of the way back to where I was staying in New Hampshire. Sorry, Maine, excuse me. Um, and that was it. Car wouldn't move anymore because it was completely out of fluid. There was no movement whatsoever. So I left it there. Left it there for a while. Towed it back down here. And it's been parked in a garage for a while ever since. So Radwood is coming up this year, and I said, what better reason to get that car back on the road than to get it ready to go to Radwood? So we brought it down to your garage probably, Saturday?
My dad's garage. Yep.
Yeah, Saturday. Took it apart Sunday, had the transmission out Monday night? Yeah,
Yep.
last night we had the transmission
We got
out.
it half apart.
Yeah, we disconnected all the lines, all the linkages, took the drive shaft out, had a bunch of the bolts out, just kept a few in there until we were ready to pull the transmission last night.
Mm-hmm.
So last night we pulled the transmission down. It was quite obvious that it was leaking from the front seal. And when we pulled the transmission out, we could see the brass bushing that the torque converter rides on inside the transmission housing, inside the oil pump of the transmission, I should say,
Yeah.
had exited where it belonged and punctured its way through the seal and was sticking out kind of at an angle on the front side of the transmission. Obviously, it doesn't belong there. But that's why the transmission was leaking, because that bushing had separated itself from the pump and had torn through the seal. So the seal's under pressure with the fluid behind it because of the design of a torque converter, and it just, all of the fluid just came out immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So upon further inspection, the bushing was wiped. The end of the torque converter was wiped. And the shaft, the end of the torque converter on the inside, because the shaft in the transmission goes into the torque converter. And the shaft coming out of the transmission, the stator shaft, was worn down pretty significantly. So thinking back to 2 years ago or 4 years ago when we took it apart last time, what probably caused that torque converter piece to snap in half was probably that bushing. It probably wasn't right then, and it overheated that shaft and caused it to crack enough, caused it to fatigue enough that it cracked. So when we decided to put the new torque converter in the old transmission without taking apart the oil pump, we didn't see that that bushing was damaged. And obviously, it was a ticking time bomb from the day we put it back
Mm-hmm.
together, and it happened to last for 2 years. So now I have the transmission in the car, the torque converters out of the transmission's out of the car, torque converters out of it. I needed the bare minimum to find a torque converter to put in the car in order to put it back together because I do have a spare transmission, which has a spare oil pump that I can take out of it
Mm-hmm.
and put it in the transmission from the car and then reassemble it with a new torque converter. So fast forward to today. I go online this morning on carpart.com, search 83 Sapporo automatic transmission, and lo and behold, there's a junkyard in Bridgewater, Mass, which is about an hour and a half from us, that has two.
Mm-hmm.
So I called them and confirmed that they had them there,
Yeah.
and I drove down today to pick one up.
Okay. How'd that go?
Let me tell you,
Yeah.
the kind of junkyard that still stocks parts for 83 Sapporos
Okay.
is going to be a little behind the times. They're with the times enough that they have an online inventory,
Okay.
but they're behind the times enough.
That still means they're like 10 years behind the.
Oh, they're way more than 10 years behind.
I mean, if they have online, that's like been a good 10 years.
The guy was looking at the. No, but 4 years ago, these transmissions did not come up on CarPart.
Okay.
So 4 years ago, this place was probably not online.
Okay.
So I called the guy with the stock numbers, and he goes, "Oh, those stock numbers aren't any good." I was like, "Okay, why?" And he goes, "Well, that first stock number we haven't used since 1987.
Okay.
So one of these transmissions has been on the shelf since 1987 at the latest, and they
Okay.
haven't cleared it out."
Was it underneath other things?
No, it was on a shelf. They were both on shelves. They had racks and racks and racks of transmissions and engines lining the walls, like 3 out of 4 walls in like 5 different rooms.
Okay.
Um, my particular transmission that I went to buy was probably about 30 feet in the air.
Okay.
When they designed this room, they designed it to be serviced via a forklift.
Okay.
In the past 40 years, they have stacked so much stuff in this room, you can no longer drive a fork truck around it.
Right, because
So-
they apparently don't get rid of things.
So all of their inventory that they have on the walls is totally inaccessible by any means of conveyance whatsoever.
It gets to a point where they're like, well, it's not selling. Just fill in the fast moving shit in front of it.
Fast moving shit? Absolutely not.
No.
So on the ground in front of where this transmission was
Okay.
is a tire machine.
All right.
That's not fast moving. That's permanent.
Okay.
A tire machine, 2 55-gallon drums of God knows what, countless little 4-cylinder engines, not tagged or inventory, just there. Most of them look like Volkswagen engines, actually. It's an all foreign parts yard. A lift is just to the right now.
Okay.
They have a car on the lift
Mm-hmm.
with no rear axle in it. So even if we wanted to go around the lift with the fork truck, we couldn't because this is a car on the lift.
All right.
The fork truck is on the right-hand side of the lift. And if we wanted to use the fork truck, if we even could get it where we needed to go with it, it was also surrounded by engine blocks and engines and tires and wheels and fenders and hoods. And this garage, if you cleaned everything out of this garage, would have been a 6 to 8 car comfortable garage. There's just enough room in this garage to drive the one car on the lift.
This sounds familiar.
It's not. It is way worse than anything you've ever seen. It's like the junkyard has just grown from the floor up. So now the guy's all excited because I'm here to buy this transmission. So he tells his other guy.
I'm relevant.
Yes. So he tells his other guy to get the thing prepped to pull off the shelf. So I got there 2 o'clock.
Okay.
No, probably earlier. Probably 1:30.
All right.
He says to the guy whose name was Ted, "Hey Ted, can you get this thing prepped and ready to pull off the shelf?" So Ted walks in the room with like a 25-foot ladder.
Okay.
Crawls up this ladder, goes to where the transmission is. Now, in order to get the ladder down, he had to move like 4 or 5 things. The rubber feet on the bottom of the ladder are sheared off on both sides, so it's just metal on the floor. There's nothing to stop this thing from sliding around.
Oh, that noise.
Nothing but the noise There's nothing to keep the thing from moving. One leg is a different height than the other. The thing is sketchy as can be, and he has it balanced against the corner of this wooden shelving unit that was built in probably 1975 to house transmission and engine cores. So he goes to pull the thing off. He pulls a torque converter out and hands it to me, like down the ladder, which is fine. The other guy goes off to help another customer remove a glove box door from a Volkswagen Jetta.
What your Jetta?
Like an '05,
Oh,
'04,
okay.
like a Mark IV Jetta,
All
whatever,
right.
'03, whatever year it was.
Okay.
Not like an '82. No, that would have been a great story. Um, so he's like, "Oh man, this thing's heavy," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's a transmission. It's just not light." And he's like, "Oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never gonna be light, like
No.
ever." He's like, "I bet this thing weighs 150 pounds." I'm like, yeah, "You're probably not wrong." He's like, "I don't know how I'm gonna get it down here." I was like, "Okay." He's like, "I think I need another ladder." I'm like, "I don't know what you're gonna do with another ladder." He's like, "Oh, I got some ideas." So that now, fast forward about a half hour. The guy's tired of waiting for the other guy who's taking the glove box door off a Jetta in the parking lot, which took an exorbitant amount of time. So he
Because
goes,
he knew that this guy is getting a transmission down from 20 feet in the
well,
air.
the guy out in the yard is the owner.
Yeah.
So the guy who's supposed to be like prepping the transmission to pull it down is like, well, we're just gonna have to wait for him to come back. And he goes back and starts working on the Mustang on the lift. So now I'm standing there like twiddling my thumbs, like I can't climb this ladder because I don't work there. Number one, I don't have any insurance on if I get hurt in their shop, and B, this is the sketchiest thing I've ever heard happening in my life. So the other guy finally comes back. It's been probably 45 minutes. I'm just standing there like twiddling my thumbs, not knowing what to do. He says to Ted to get the other ladder. So now we have a 25-foot aluminum ladder against this thing to go about 30 feet in the air. And then they bring out this probably 25-foot tall step ladder, like the one that opens up like an A, like a V,
Yeah.
upside down V. So he puts that in
An
the
A,
ground.
an upside down V.
Yes. I'm just trying to be very clear what's going on here.
That would be an A.
Yes. Well, no, an A has like bars going across it. Actually, I listed two because it has the crossbar, so it looks like an A from the side. All right. I'm assuming our audience knows what a step ladder is. So the guy brings out this 25-foot step ladder, and he puts it in front of this other ladder now that's leaned against the shelving unit. Okay. He asked this other guy to, hey, get that table over there and give me that table. So he hoists him up. So now the owner guy, has climbed the first ladder, the rickety one that I first told about. His employee hands him a table, like a table, not like a table, and they rest the table on the top of the 25-foot step ladder and bridge it across to the shelf. I don't know if you can picture how this is happening now. So now there's about a 5-foot disparity between the top of the step ladder and the top of the shelf. So the table's at an angle. So the guy climbs the first ladder, which is now under this table, mind you. Climbs up to the bottom of the table and like reaches around the table,
Mm-hmm.
lifts the front of the transmission onto this table, and slides it down to the middle of the table. And then climbs down the ladder. And now he looks up, and there's a transmission on this table, which is probably like a 6-foot long table, hovering over the floor and us, being supported by an inch of table on the shelf and maybe 2 inches of table on top of the other step ladder. At an angle in the 6-foot table at like a 4 to 5 foot disparity of the angle from the front of the table to the back of the table. So it's a pretty steep angle. The transmission's just sitting there. And I'm like, I'm not buying this transmission. It's going to hit the ground. It's going to get broken in half. Somebody's going to die. This is not going to happen. So he's standing there looking at it and he's scratching his head because now he doesn't know how to move it from there. Because now it's at almost the same height that it was at, but it's no longer safely on a shelf where it's been sitting since probably 1988. It's now hovering ugly over the middle of the shop. So the first guy takes the first ladder out from underneath the table where it's against the shelving unit, walks it back a few feet, and puts it against the side of the stepladder, and proceeds to climb the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And the ladder is being supported now by a stepladder. So the top of the ladder is braced against the top of the stepladder.
Okay.
Do you understand how that works?
Yeah, it's just leaning against it.
It's a ladder leaning against a ladder, and this is like a 280-pound man. So he starts to climb the ladder, and obviously the stepladder starts to tilt, and the table starts to tilt, and the transmission shifts, and it slides another foot down the table. And he yells to the other guy to come steady the ladder. So he wants the other guy to stand under the ladder and hold the ladder up as he climbs the ladder.
Okay.
I don't think he understands how, like, physics works.
Gravity.
Because the fulcrum of weight from him climbing above this guy holding the ladder on the ground to him climbing high enough to touch this transmission is absurd. So he starts to do it, and the guy can't hold his weight, obviously, once he gets a certain height off the ground. And the thing starts to tip again, and the table moves again, and the transmission moves again. So he stops there, and he tries to reach up to get the transmission, but he realizes now that the ladder, where the two meet, is right underneath the roof-mounted propane heater. So
Yeah.
he can't reach the transmission because the heater's in the way. Not that I know what he was going to do with his transmission at this point anyway, because it's just sitting there in midair at the same height it was at before, and now he's on an even sketchier ladder than he was before. So he climbs down, and he rebraces the ladder and everything, and he's like, I don't know what to do. So he disappears, and he comes back with scaffolding. Not a whole scaffolding unit. You know how when you stand on scaffolding, there's the wooden plank with the metal ends that clamp on the round bars?
Yep.
So he comes back with one of those. Just the clamp. Just the clamp and the plywood surface you stand on.
Not the actual scaffolding.
Not the actual scaffolding. Just it's basically plywood with a metal structure under it. Is what he comes back with.
Okay.
He clamps it to the back of the stepladder. So now it's a ramp from the table to the scaffolding. And he brings a filing cabinet over from the other side of the garage.
All right.
And he puts the filing cabinet underneath the back half of the scaffolding. And he goes, all right, now I'm going to climb the ladder on the other side, and I'm going to slide the transmission down the table onto the scaffolding, and then down the scaffolding onto the filing cabinet.
Sure.
So now the transmission has the ricketiest ramp possible ever created by man to be slid down, I mean, a total of probably 12 feet to this point, down to a height where they can actually easily manage it. So, obviously, as they're moving around, the table slips on the shelving unit. It makes a big, like, bang because it goes down from one level of the shelving unit to, like, where the plywood sits on top to the wooden frame in the front. So it drops like an inch. So now it's only held on by, like, the smallest of pieces to hold this piece of wood to this piece of wood. I don't know how it happened. I don't know what form of gravity was in function in this garage today, but he put the ladder against the opposite side of the step ladder that he was on before. Again, the same sketchy way. Managed to get up there, slide the transmission down the table and the scaffolding to the top of the filing cabinet. And we managed to get it out of the garage. All told, 2 hours and 15 minutes.
It's so weird.
Right. I I didn't have my camera with me. It was in my truck parked out front, my phone.
Oh, yeah.
I
All I can think of is like in a cartoon
yeah,
when somebody stacks all this stuff up to like
Yeah.
reach a high
that's
point.
what happened. That's what happened. And then the guy's like, he's like climbing in between things and like 1 foot on the tire machine and 1 foot in the ladder. And every time he moves, the table moves and the transmission slides a little bit more. And I'm just like, nah, there's no way. I'm not buying this thing today. It's not. I'm not gonna get it. Somebody's gonna die. Transmission's gonna hit the ground. It's gonna crack in half. I couldn't watch by the end. I was like, I can't even watch. I had to walk outside. But they got it down. So, Godspeed to them if they have to do this all the time for every transmission on that shelf, because eventually one's gonna bite them. Thankfully, it wasn't this one today, so I don't feel guilty. But not a fun time getting this transmission down.
All right. So what was this transmission from?
It's from an '83 Challenger,
Okay.
which is the same car.
Okay. But
So,
a Dodge.
yeah,
Those cool Malays Challengers.
yes, it's the Dodge version of the Sapporo.
Yep.
So,
So it's kind of weird that it was a Mitsubishi imported for Chrysler, but the only thing Chrysler gave in the exchange was this ancient transmission.
so the transmission, as I have now found out, was not built by Chrysler.
Really
It's a Chrysler design, licensed and built by Mitsubishi.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that they didn't put like an ASIN in it.
I
Probably because it was cheaper just to get the licensing and build
Yeah.
something that's already engineered.
Maybe.
What was really weird was when we were taking off bolts to it, like
Some were standard and some were metric.
or like in between metric and standard. Like
Yeah, there was some weird sizes on there.
metric didn't fit that well, and neither did the
Yeah.
close standard ones. It was super weird, but we made it work. But any idea on the mileage of it?
Unfortunately, 101,000.
The record's burned.
No, it's got 101,000 miles on it.
That's, I guess,
It's not wonderful, but it is what it is.
that was 101,000 miles in 1987.
Yeah.
So from 83 to 87.
So there were two transmissions there. This one was 101,000 miles. The other one was unknown mileage.
Okay.
And it was even higher in the air, so I didn't get that one.
Okay.
Side note.
Do you want to disclose what you paid for it or no?
Yeah, $200.
All right.
It is what it is. After everything they went through, I wasn't going to try to negotiate the price.
I mean, it's still. I'm shocked that you found one so fast.
Like, literally, we pulled it out yesterday, and there just happened to be one.
and we were looking
within
at it.
an
We're
hour
like,
and a half.
it's the one you have is pretty much. It could be rebuilt.
Mhm.
You do have the parts to rebuild it, but
Mhm.
this one looks pretty good.
And we still, at the bare minimum, needed a torque converter.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to sell a torque converter separate from a transmission because it doesn't
No.
make any sense.
So
So the fact that I got it next day, it was $200. I got this killer story out of it. I watched two men almost die. It was just it's worth $200 to me.
ideally, in a perfect world, this car would be 5-speed swapped, and we'd be done with it forever.
In a perfect world,
But
this car will eventually just be snarring and swapped. It will have a turbo 5-speed.
Yeah.
Just because.
But
It bolts in, doesn't ruin the car.
but right now,
We want to get the car ready for Radwood.
it's better off just throwing this in there. The car hasn't been driven in a while. It'd be
Yep.
it'd be nice to see it moving again
Mhm.
without getting into what I call project creep, where
Right.
you end up doing one thing and then it's like, well, I'm in there. I'll do this and this,
And the problem with
and then
that,
a year down the road, it's still not done.
was, I don't know if I mentioned on air, but I've sold my house. So I have a lot of cars that need to move in a short period of time.
Yeah.
So let's get this done now. Let's not get too involved. Let's make it happen.
The only other thing that it definitely needs is a carrier bearing, the
Correct.
drive shaft, because
Yep.
that's
Which I
toasted,
did not look up today because I had so much else going on.
and the
Tires and wheels.
yep. And the do you want to disclose what you're going to put on there, or
Yeah,
we're
I
gonna
mean,
save that
there's
for-
already a picture of it on,
All right.
on my Instagram page,
All right.
TSISS350.
Yeah.
It's
I don't
got the Yankee 92s.
Those look they're going to look boss on there.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed, the coolant hoses are a little swollen and there's some
but that's
corrosion around
5
them.
minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's best to do that before you take it on a long drive because
Mhm.
these engines are very sensitive to being overheated,
Mhm.
as we know with the Raider.
Very much so.
But it will be nice to get this thing running and driving and see it on the road again, because unfortunately it's
agree.
been due to other things, it's been neglected for a little while.
Yeah, it's been parked for 2 years.
Yeah.
And unfortunately not always inside.
Yeah.
So it needs a lot of cleanup. But I'll make it new again.
Yeah, and you've got my spare driver's side mirror, passenger
do.
side mirror.
I do.
You're gonna clean
Yeah.
that up for me at work.
I'm going to get that painted gloss black for your car to match the other side.
Plus, I need it for a sticker.
Also needed for a sticker,
Yeah.
yes.
So that car is coming along. Oh, I have tires coming for that.
Oh, excellent.
I knocked over a polar seltzer bottle. How
Yes.
appropriate.
I don't know if that was heard on the. I don't think I heard my headphones, so I
Whatever.
think you're okay.
I got some S drives. I like S drives.
They're appropriate for a car of that era because they're not too grippy, um, and they work. They have a nice square sidewall, which works in the '90s era.
Well, there's not a lot of options in 16 inches, and I don't want super sticky Zenuses that are going to wear out really fast. And I don't care what anybody says. I like Yokohama S drives. They drive pretty awesome on the Galant. So,
Yeah, no, they're great. They're long wearing. They're decent in the rain. They're decent in the dry, which is all you need them for. You don't need
mm-hmm.
them for snow. You don't need them for racetrack. You don't need them for anything
Nope.
else. They're just a good street tire.
Yep. They're 215/55 16s, and they're going to go on a 16 by 8-inch wheel.
Mm-hmm.
So that should look pretty good. The tires that were on there were 225/50 16s. They were slightly too wide in the car. So I got to clean those wheels up. Try to get them mounted beginning of next week because I got to get it aligned, and then I'd like to get a sticker, and I'd like to drive it a little bit. And it just needs an oil change because I did flush the coolant. Brake fluid's flushed. Oh, I'd like to flush the clutch fluid. That's about it. I'm just going to drive it as is, and it's not totally tuned, but it should be okay.
No, it'll be okay.
Um,
I was talking to another friend the other day who's putting some break-in miles on a new engine,
yeah.
and it's not tuned yet. And he was talking about, you know, driving it slowly and not going over 4,000 RPM and whatever. And because it's not tuned, he doesn't want to blow up his new engine.
Yeah.
He's like a bass tune to it, but hasn't fine-tuned it. And I think his phrase was, "I'm just not going to give it all the beans."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I'll give it the beans, but just not all the beans, and we'll be okay.
Yep.
That was our friend with the SRT 4 swapped, rotisserie restored neon RT.
Yeah, you got to work on getting him to.
He's working on it.
All right.
He's working on it. It is in the potential plan to go to Radwood. So
All right. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I could do a little bit of tuning to it, but we'll see where we get with that. Anything else? I think that pretty much covers it for this week.
yeah, we've had a pretty busy week, but hopefully next week,
And more updates next week.
hopefully next week we'll have the Sapporo on the road.
Kind of unfortunate that we're towards
Town
the
on the
end
road.
of the driving season here, but it took
Yeah.
us like all summer to get a lot of stuff done,
It's
but
been a weird year.
it is done,
Yeah,
and that means the stuff will be ready in the spring.
yeah, it's been a weird year. I think we might have a guest next week too. Don't want to say for sure yet, so that's exciting. And I don't know. Look forward for more stuff coming.
Yep.
And look forward for hopefully that website coming.
Yep. So the other thing too, if you haven't already rated us on iTunes, if you use iTunes,
Please do.
It would be very helpful to rate us. We'd like to keep this podcast free forever, but we would also like to get some advertising to offset our costs,
Mm-hmm.
at least pay for the audio equipment for now.
Mm-hmm.
That would be nice. But by getting reviews and getting us higher in the rankings, it would be easier to get
Advertising dollars.
dollars. We don't want to do any type of pay for programming at this point. That's not our goal. We want to just do a couple ads. I think I listen to a lot of different podcasts, and I don't mind having a couple ads in them.
No.
And I don't want to make anybody pay for anything extra.
Nope.
So that's just the way it is right now. That's
Except for goods and services. We will sell some more T-shirts and hats, I think, coming up pretty soon.
yeah, we're gonna find a better T-shirt supplier. We're planning on doing some hats. We're gonna get some more stickers to give away.
Yeah.
If you see us in person.
We should definitely have more by Radwood, I think. So.
Mm-hmm. So that being said,
This Friday night, if you're local,
oh, that's right.
at the
So
restaurant
Salem, Koto,
Koto in
Salem, Mass.
KOTO, the band that does our intro song, Z28, will be performing. I think the show starts at 8. I'm not sure what time their set is, but it's sometime after that, obviously.
Drinks are good at Koto. The food's good at Koto.
Yeah, go. Pro tip: go before 8. Eat some dinner.
Yeah,
and then check out the
Pad
show.
Thai is awesome there.
Yeah.
Yeah, should go there. Z28 has a CD out. You can buy their CD there.
Yep. Nobody rides for free.
That's right. And we thank them for letting us use their song.
Yeah, and they're a great band and great
They
guys.
are a great band and great guys. So as always, keep your cars analog and aim for the roses.